LSU has an uphill battle going up against a very, very good Ole Miss team.
Yeah, I'm curious to see where most of the money's going to go by the time it's all said and done, Musso. We were talking about it a little bit before the show. Ole Miss, at the very least, is a team that has established an identity, right? They're not only a very explosive offense, but a very complete offense that, is capable of slinging it with Matt Corral and is also capable of running the ball, establishing the line of scrimmage with their three running backs, including Jerry and Ely. But LSU is a team that maybe has an identity. I mean, over the last 2 weeks, they played a lot better both defending the run and, they played a lot better running the ball on offense, and on defense, they made a lot of really good plays with their defensive line as well. So we'll see if LSU has established that identity or not. But Ole Miss is a team that's also really beat up Musso. We talked about it a little bit yesterday about that game against Tennessee where they get out at the very end with the victory. They're on the field for over 100 plays, but not just that, but the week before they're in a trap meet with Arkansas where they get into the 100 on the scoreboard, and it's another trap meet kind of game. So I'm really interested to see if LSU kind of props up later on in the week as like a trendy upset pick, or at least a lot of people expect them to cover the spread by the time it's all said and done and we get closer to this game.
You know what I think people aren't talking about enough from this game is the quarterback matchup. This is one of the better quarterback matchups you're going to see in the SEC this year.
You think so?
I do, because, first of all, Matt Corral is one of the favorites for the Heisman Trophy right now. Max Johnson, while he wasn't great against Kentucky, has been really, really good for LSU so far this year. Now, I know a lot of that, they had no running game for the majority of the year, but that speaks to just how good Max has been. He's got more passing yards than Matt Corral to this point in the season. He's second in the SEC in passing touchdowns with 20. Max Johnson has been one heck of a player, and we know what Matt Corral can do, and he's eliminated the turnover from his game. Only one interception. He did fumble last week, but one interception in the passing game. These are two quarterbacks playing at a very high level, and it's a game that figures to see a lot of points. We kind of talked about that yesterday. The defenses, they don't stop anybody. I mean, they don't. And especially on third down, both of these defenses, LSU's 11th in third down percentage on defense in the conference. Ole Miss is 13th. So both teams struggle to get off the field third down. You have two quarterbacks playing at a high level. We talked a little bit about the spread. The total sits at 76. Now, a lot of that could be because of what happened last year, but you saw and there you go again too. You saw what Max Johnson was able to do against an Ole Miss defense last year. So I'm very intrigued by this quarterback matchup.
Yeah, it's a good quarterback matchup. It's just Corral is in the much better system, I guess, or at least the offense has been much more efficient. Because as I said, it's not like Matt Corral is just that much more talented than Max Johnson, and you kind of see that in the stats, like you just laid down. But like I said, Matt Corral has had a running game to lean on, and not just that, but a very diverse set of running backs. Those trios that are not just good running between the tackles, but also good catching the ball out of the backfield as well. And Ole Miss is a team that has gotten like just enough stops. Their defense has been better, because it's hard to not be better from the group that they saw last year, that they put out last year. But I'm not sure just how much better they've gotten. And I think LSU is another team that is going to present a challenge for them, not just because Max Johnson is capable of slinging that thing around the same way Corral is, but because LSU has this newfound running game. And you and I both thought maybe that was a little bit of a farce after what we saw against Kentucky, because maybe that was just predicated on the scheme and Kentucky dropping a lot of people back in coverage and daring LSU to run the ball. But then against a really good Florida defense, LSU gashed the Gators. And I think they maybe found something here with not just TDP running the ball a lot better, but with all the variety we're seeing on offense that we've talked about all week, with Mashburn lining up at tight end, and the stats that differ big time when LSU is running more misdirection counter versus running more what they ran in the first couple of games. So it looks like they found something as well. And I expect a little bit more of a trap meet kind of game in this one as well, Musso. But LSU's defensive line as well deserves a lot of credit the last couple of weeks for being better against the run. Like, a lot less you're seeing the running back get to the second level. And guys, not just like Jay Roy and Guillory and Mason Smith, who have played really well all year, stepping up, but guys like Glenn Logan, who recently returned, Neil Farrell had an awesome game against Florida, are doing much better defending the run. So we'll see if that continues.
I think last week was the perfect game for LSU to have ahead of Ole Miss. Because I think Ole Miss and Florida offensively are fairly similar. Maybe one of the bigger misconceptions when it comes to Lane Kiffin's offense is the focus on the passing game, when really It all starts running the football.
They're very balanced.
They're extremely balanced, but they want to come out there, establish the run, and everything will go off of the run in Ole Miss's offense, whereas LSU maybe has been more of everything going off the pass. Florida was the same way. This will be the second week in a row that LSU faces the number one rushing offense in the SEC. Florida had that title last week. You knocked them off that pedestal, and Ole Miss slid right in. They averaged 263 yards per game on the ground. And then Matt Corral throws for 300 off of that. You saw that kind of happen in the second half, but Florida was also down. They had to throw the ball, but Anthony Richardson was able to beat LSU over the top a good bit. They got to see that. The bigger difference I see is the tempo. Ole Miss they move a lot faster than Florida does. 81 plays per game, around 105 last week. I'm curious to see how that impacts LSU's ability to substitute against Ole Miss. LSU was able to work a nice rotation on defense last week, better than I thought they were going to be able to. That's one reason I was concerned, because that's something that LSU struggled with earlier in the season. I'm interested to see if they can carry that over into Ole Miss, even though it's a team that's going to move a lot faster. And Lane does his best to not let you substitute on third down to keep you in that same personnel that he has an advantage against. So that would be something to watch. But I do think it was a good matchup last week for LSU, going up against a team that was very run heavy and they wanted to go with the pass off of that. Now, don't get me wrong, Ole Miss is much more successful doing that than Florida, but at least you got a look at something similar, and now you'll take it into this week.
Yeah, they're both great systems. Dan Mullen's the same way Lane Kiffin's is for Ole Miss, right? And make no mistake, candidly, as well as LSU's defense played last week against Florida in that win, they still struggled against the pass for large stretches of that game. And Florida was just really irresponsible with some of their throws, and that honestly made the difference in the game, Musso, because I think Florida still kind of had an advantage. They still schemed guys open like Copeland and others. Shorter had a huge game against LSU, and Ole Miss is obviously capable of doing the same thing. So LSU, I think, is going to have to be opportunistic to have a chance to cover, if not win this game outright, and that's exactly what happened last year against Ole Miss. Ole Miss still put up a whole lot of yards against LSU, but the Tigers had, 4 picks against Matt Corral, including a pick 6 from Jay Ward?
Last year, 5 picks, and he fumbled the ball as well. He turned the ball over 6 times. Matt Corral turned the ball over 6 times in 2 separate games.
Yep.
Last year, threw 6 picks against Arkansas, and then the 5 picks and the 1 and the fumble against LSU. That's the biggest difference in his game. He's eliminated that.
Yeah, so I agree with your observation, man. Ole Miss is still going to get theirs. Corral's still going to get theirs. Connor, their receivers, all that. But LSU just needs to be opportunistic. They need to take advantage of the few individual advantages that they maybe do have over Ole Miss, like we talked about yesterday along the defensive line. You're going to hope Mason Smith is able to wreak some havoc again, and you're going to hope that you can flip the field and take advantage of some turnovers, hopefully win that turnover battle again, because much like Florida did last week, Ole Miss is still going to get theirs. They're still going to put up a lot of yards and put up a lot of points, but LSU has some advantages on defense that will hopefully let them create some turnovers, much like they did against Florida, and that's their path to winning and covering this game.
This one could very well come down to who has the football last.